Hello, friends, and welcome to 10-Minute English Stories. If you are learning English, this is the perfect channel for you. We share short, simple, and inspiring stories in easy English. Stories that help you learn new words, improve listening, and teach important life lessons. So, before we begin, please subscribe the channel and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Let's begin. There's a version of you that you haven't met yet. A version that speaks clearly, thinks sharply, walks into a room and commands respect, not because of what they wear or where they're from, but because of the words they carry. But here's what nobody tells you. That version of you doesn't appear overnight. It's built, quietly, slowly, often in the dark, when everyone else is asleep. This is the story of a boy who did exactly that, and by the end of this video, you won't just feel inspired, you'll understand something real, something that school never taught you about language, about learning, and about what it actually takes to become who you want to be. Stay with me, because this story, it gets very real, very fast. His name was Arjun. He was 17 years old, living in a small town in India, the kind of town where electricity cuts out at 9 p.m., where the roads don't have names, and where speaking English was treated like a magic trick only rich people knew. His father repaired shoes near the bus stand. His mother packed lunches for school kids every morning before sunrise. They weren't poor in spirit, they were rich in that way, but money was always a conversation they had quietly, away from the children. Arjun had two younger sisters. He slept on a thin mattress on the floor, and every night, when the lights went out, he would lie there in the dark. And he would listen. Not to music, not to entertainment, he would listen to English. Old recordings on a borrowed phone, BBC radio clips downloaded at the tea shop's Wi-Fi, audiobooks that were too advanced for him, but he listened anyway, letting the sounds wash over him like water, even when he didn't understand a single word. His friends thought he was strange. "Why are you learning English?" they would ask. "You're not going abroad. You don't have money. Who do you think you are?" And Arjun never had a good answer. He just knew, somewhere deep where logic doesn't reach, that language was a door, and he was standing outside it, in the cold, pressing his ear against the wood. Here's something fascinating, and this is where the story gets interesting. Arjun didn't know it at the time, but he was accidentally doing something that neuroscientists have studied for decades. The human brain doesn't fully switch off when you sleep. During what's called the consolidation phase, the hours when your body rests, your brain is actually organizing, filing, strengthening connections made during the day. Think of it like this. If your brain is a library, daytime learning is like throwing books on the floor. Sleep is when the librarian comes in, picks everything up, and puts it exactly where it belongs. This is why people who study before sleeping, or even sleep with audio playing softly, often retain more than people who study and then immediately distract themselves with screens. Arjun wasn't just listening for fun. He was, without knowing it, training his brain's phonological loop, the part of your mind that processes sounds, rhythm, and language patterns. Every night, while his family slept, his brain was quietly memorizing the music of English, the rhythm of sentences, the way stress falls on certain syllables, the difference between a question and a statement, not from the words, but from the sound. This is something textbooks completely miss. Language isn't just grammar and vocabulary. Language is music. And to learn music, you have to hear it again and again until your body starts to feel it before your mind understands it. 6 months passed. Arjun still couldn't hold a full conversation in English, but something strange had started to happen. When he heard English, in a film, in a shop, on a stranger's phone, he didn't feel lost anymore. He felt familiar, like recognizing a face you've seen before, even if you can't remember the name. His English teacher at school, a tired woman named Mrs. Sharma, who had been teaching for 20 years and no longer expected surprises, called him to her desk one afternoon. She handed him a passage, a short story, something meant for students 2 years older than him. "Read this," she said. He read it, slowly, with occasional pauses, but he read it. She stared at him for a long moment. "How?" she asked. He didn't know how to explain it. He just said, "I listen at night." She didn't fully understand, but she handed him another book and said 3 words that changed his life. "Come back tomorrow." This is the part of the story that most people never talk about, because Arjun almost quit many times. There's a phase in language learning, in any kind of deep learning, that psychologists call the plateau. You've been working, you've been consistent, and then suddenly nothing seems to be moving. You're putting in the same effort, but the results have stopped coming. And this is where 90% of people give up. Not because they're lazy, not because they're not smart enough, but because the human brain is wired to seek feedback. We need to see progress to keep going, and when progress becomes invisible, even if it's still happening underneath the surface, we interpret silence as failure. Arjun hit this wall at month 4. He was still listening every night, still practicing, still trying. But when he spoke, his words came out broken, embarrassing. People laughed, not cruelly, just casually, the way people do when they don't realize how much damage a small laugh can do. He stopped speaking English out loud for 3 weeks. He kept listening, but he stopped speaking. Pain doesn't always make us quit completely. Sometimes it makes us go inward. We continue the inner work, but we stop the outer expression. We protect the dream by hiding it. And sometimes that's exactly the right move. Because the inner work, done consistently and quietly, was still building something. Mrs. Sharma gave him a new title, not officially, not in front of the class, just between them. She called him the guarded reader, because he read everything, he absorbed everything, but he shared almost nothing until he was ready. This is actually a profound way to learn. Most language programs push you to speak immediately, and while speaking practice is valuable, there's an entire school of thought developed by linguist Stephen Krashen called Comprehensible input theory. The idea is simple. You don't learn language by forcing output before you're ready. You learn by flooding yourself with input, reading, listening, absorbing, until the language becomes natural inside you, until it has a home in your brain. And then, and only then, does speaking become natural, not forced, not rehearsed, not mechanical, natural. Like a child who listens for 2 years before they speak their first real sentence. Nobody calls a child a failure because they don't speak immediately. But we do that to adults and teenagers who are learning a second language. We mock them for not being fluent fast enough. We laugh at their accent. We correct them mid-sentence, mid-thought, and we wonder why they go silent. Arjun went silent because he was protecting something precious, a flame in a windy room, and he was right to guard it. It was a Tuesday evening. Arjun was 18 now. A man came to their town, a representative from a government scholarship program, visiting local schools to identify students with potential for a national English communication exam. The exam offered 10 scholarships, full funding for a college education in the city. The representative sat in front of a class of 40 students and asked one question in English. "Tell me, why does education matter to you?" Silence. A few students mumbled in broken sentences and stopped. Some didn't even try. And then Arjun spoke. Not perfectly, not like a news anchor or a professor, but clearly, with meaning, with feeling. Education matters to me because I grew up in a room where the lights went out at 9. And I realized early that knowledge doesn't need electricity, it lives in you. And once it's inside, no one can turn it off. The representative looked up from his clipboard. He asked Arjun 3 more questions. Arjun answered each one, slowly, carefully, like someone who has carried words for a long time and learned how much weight they hold. He got the scholarship. But here's what I want you to understand, because this is the real lesson. It wasn't talent that got him that scholarship. It was patience. It was those thousands of nights in the dark. It was the decision to keep listening when speaking felt too dangerous. It was the quiet, unglamorous, invisible work that no one ever sees. The breakthrough moment was just the moment when all of that hidden work finally became visible. Let's talk about something deeper for a moment. Why does language matter so much? Not just English, any language, but English specifically in today's world. Because language is not just communication. Language is identity. Language is access. Language is the bridge between who you are and who the world allows you to be. Research in psycholinguistics shows that when people are forced to communicate in a language they're not confident in, their measured intelligence appears lower, not because they're less intelligent, but because they can't fully express what they know. Think about that. There are brilliant people sitting in silence right now, not because they have nothing to say, but because they don't yet have the words to say it. And the tragedy is, the world often mistakes that silence for emptiness. Arjun knew this. He had felt it. That horrible moment when you have a thought, a real, complex, beautiful thought, and you open your mouth and something small and broken comes out instead. It's like trying to carry water in your hands. The idea exists, but by the time it reaches the world, most of it has spilled. Learning English wasn't about becoming someone else for Arjun. It was about finally being able to carry his thoughts completely, without losing them on the way. Now, let's get practical, because this story isn't just inspiration. There's a method inside it. And if you're learning English or any skill, this method can genuinely change your timeline. Step 1. Flood before you force. Listen a lot. More than feels necessary. Podcasts, audiobooks, films without subtitles. Let your brain hear the rhythm of the language before you ask it to produce it. Step 2. Sleep is not wasted time. Review new words, phrases, or short passages right before sleep, not cramming, just gentle exposure. Your brain will do the filing while you rest. This is not a myth, it's memory consolidation. Use it. Step 3. Guard your progress. Don't perform before you're ready. It's okay to be in a private phase of learning. Not everything needs to be shown on day 1. Build in silence when you need to, but keep building. Step 4. Understand first, grammar later. Most language learners learn grammar rules before they can understand a natural sentence. That's backwards. Understand first. Feel the language. Grammar will make sense once the language already lives in you. Step 5. Find your Mrs. Sharma. Find one person, just one, who sees what you're building before it's built. A teacher, a mentor, a friend, someone who says, "Come back tomorrow." These people are rare, but they exist. And when you find one, stay close. Years later, when Arjun was asked to give a talk at his old school, the same building, the same broken fans, the same dusty boards, he said something that silenced the room. "I was never afraid of English. I was afraid of being seen. English was just the thing I used as an excuse to stay hidden." And that hit something true, because for so many people, maybe for you, the real barrier to speaking, to learning, to showing up isn't a lack of skill, it's a fear of visibility. The fear that if you try and fail, people will see you fail, and that seeing is somehow more painful than the failure itself. But here's what Arjun learned in that small room, night after night, with a borrowed phone and a sleeping family. Nobody is watching you as closely as you think. And the ones who are watching, the ones who notice you trying, struggling, staying, they don't feel pity, they feel something closer to respect. Because trying, in a world that rewards performance, is an act of courage. Arjun is in his mid-20s now. He works for an international nonprofit. He travels, he speaks at conferences, he reads books in English, and sometimes dreams in English, which still surprises him. But he told me something last year that I haven't stopped thinking about. I don't remember the day my English became good. There was no single day. It was 1,000 small nights, 1,000 small decisions to keep listening when it would have been easier to sleep. And one day, I just noticed that the door was open. That's how real change happens. Not in explosions, not in dramatic turning points, in quiet, consistent, invisible accumulation until suddenly the weight tips. So here's what I want you to take with you. If you're learning English right now, or learning anything, and you feel like it's taking too long, like you're not moving fast enough, like everyone around you has it figured out while you're still struggling with the basics, remember Arjun. Remember the room with no light. Remember that the work you do in the dark, the listening, the practicing, the quiet stubbornness of continuing is not invisible. It's building something. You just can't see it yet. And one night, or one morning, you'll open your mouth and the words will come. Not perfectly, but truly. And that moment will feel less like a beginning and more like a return, like finally arriving somewhere you always belonged. If this story meant something to you, don't just move on. Sit with it for a moment. And if you know someone who's learning, who's struggling, who's hiding a flame in a windy room, share this with them. Because sometimes the only thing standing between a person and their breakthrough is knowing that someone else made it through the dark. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. Not perfect stories, not polished success myths, real ones, the kind that make you feel a little less alone and a little more ready to keep going.